is up, Michigan Hoops Nation? Welcome to the first State Champs HangTime podcast of the 2018-2019 basketball season. We are a month earlier than we began a year ago. We waited all the way till we got back after the break before we started talking hoops here at StateChampsNetwork.com and all our social media platforms. We decided let's do it a month earlier. Let's get going. The season is on. There's a lot of news happening. Scott Burnstein is here. He'll be here every week. And of course, TJ Kelly, who is our hoops insider here. Welcome, gentlemen.
How you doing? Hey, I'm excited. Yeah, we started right after Thanksgiving, so guess we got a little bit extra basketball.
Get a week early start, and let's go cage crazy.
That's right. So we're inside the main studio here at State Champs. We probably won't always be here, but it was already set up for something we did earlier. So that is where we are. I do want to mention the sponsors of the podcast. Lawrence Tech, soon 26 sports are going to be offered here at LTU. That is more than at Michigan State, if you can believe it. Track and field beginning this spring. If you are an athlete and you want to recruit yourself, go to LTUathletics.com. The MHSAA, also a sponsor of this podcast. Visit MHSAA.com for scores and more. You know that's your hub. BCAM, the Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan, the Assistant Executive Director, longtime coach at Canton and Westland, John Glenn, just to name a few. Dan Young will join us later in the show. He'll be joined with State Champs Managing Editor and writer Matt Mowery. We'll be talking, among other things, Miss Basketball. The other sponsor of this program is an event we have coming up very soon, and that is the first ever State Champs Winter Jam. This was just a vision that we had a year ago, in fact, with Dan and with TJ, and we talked about it we were wrapping up the season last year that, we need to host an event.
The showcase, the platform of showcases has really kind of been a trend the last couple of years, and why not, jump in head first with State Champs in our partnership with Lawrence Tech, now that Lawrence Tech has got their basketball team up and running, playing well under Coach Pickens?
Yes.
Josh
Pickens.
Yep,
absolutely. December 22nd at the Ridler Fieldhouse on the campus here at Lawrence Tech. 4 great games, 1 low price. First time we've done this. We're excited about it. At 1 p.m., the defending girls state champs in both Class B and C. Now both will be in the newly designed Division II. Detroit Edison taking on Detroit Country Day. ESPN has Edison's Rakea Jackson ranked the second best wing in the nation.
Going to Mississippi State.
So you want to come check her out.
Yeah.
At 3 p.m., Westland John Glenn and senior talented guard Joe Moon will take on Mount Clemens. And freshman phenom Javon Hanna, the 6'4" ninth grader, had 24 points and 8 rebounds in his debut victory over Armada. His coach,
really good freshman.
His coach said he could have had 40 and 20 that night if they had let him go.
Yeah.
So, he's
something. Trammell knows basketball too. I mean, at Grand Valley State.
Yeah, exactly. So we got to come see him, and that matchup, which should be solid at 5 p.m. Coach Steve Brooks, along with Georgia transfer Markeith Browning, and the Ypsilanti Community Grizzlies will battle the technicians of Detroit Cass Tech. 3-year starting point guard Tyson Acuff and company, already off to a great year.
Yeah.
Right, looking powerful. So that's another must-see, if you ask me. Our nightcap at 7 p.m., another one of the top point guards in the state, B. Artis White, and his Canton Chiefs will battle Coach T.J. Merschman's Class B state finalist from a year ago, Grand Rapids Catholic Central. The junior point guard Austin Braun and Grand Valley commit leading the charge for the Cougars. If you don't remember, he had 31 in the state semifinal over New Haven last year. So, of course, that is our marquee matchup. So $10 gets you in for all the games. There will be no re-entry without separate admission. I've got an awesome DJ lined up.
Nice.
That I just hooked up. So TJ Monty Productions is going to be out there to keep it hype all day. Once again, the State Champs Winter Jam takes place Saturday, December 22nd in the Don Ridler Fieldhouse at Lawrence Tech, and all games will be streamed live on the NFHS network.
We're going to do some broadcasts, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes. So I plan, and I know I told you that I definitely want to color on the Cass Tech Ypsilanti game. I'd like you to do the color with me on the Mount Clemens Westland John Glenn game.
Do it.
I'm going to have Dan Young do the Canton Grand Rapids Catholic Central game because he's tight with, obviously used to coach Canton.
Yep.
And I'm going to have Matt Mowery do the girls game with me for Country Day and Detroit Edison.
Get your vocal cords ready.
Yeah, I'll be good. I'll go all day.
I'm really actually the game that I'm most jacked about for that event is the Depth's Country Day game. I mean, you're going to have 6 or 7 Division I power conference players all on the same floor.
Here's the beauty of that, too, is that originally they were going to play at Country Day as one of their last home games of the season. But that was before Detroit Country Day found out they're going to be in the same division. He did not want to have a matchup against Edison that close to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So he said, let's go to the showcase, let's go to the Winter Jam, and let's play it there. And then we'll both kind of go our separate ways until we meet in the postseason.
The stars aligned.
That's right.
Nice.
So it's going to be awesome.
Nice.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Jasmine Powell, the Minnesota commit over for Country Day, and then Rakia Jackson. That's going to be a heck of a head-to-head battle.
Absolutely. Okay. Later we're going to talk about and what we're going to talk about in our first segment is some early season action, what surprised us so far. That'll be first. Then we're going to talk about TJ's latest boys basketball rankings. Our third segment we're going to do is Hot Topics, which is a potpourri of all the stuff that's happening right now. And after our BCAM segment, we'll talk about some of the best games of the weekend. So that is what you have to look forward to here on the show each and every week here at StateChampsNetwork.com and, of course, on Twitter, Facebook, and our YouTube page. So let's get into the season has begun. We're a couple weeks in. Boys started early this year.
Yes.
You know, where they're going to kind of trade every year where the girls will go that first week and then they'll start and then the boys will do the next season. So it was the boys' turn to start early. So their state final will actually be, not that last week of March, but before that.
The weekend of St. Patrick's Day.
Right. Which is right around March Madness. First round.
It's going to be pretty good.
It's going to be
exciting.
It's going to be a hoops crazy time. But talk about just, I know that you guys have already been to some games, obviously. Talk about what some of the things that have surprised you thus far.
For me, I went to the Horatio Williams Tip-Off Classic at Detroit Edison last Saturday. Very exciting. Flint Beecher, they just beat Detroit Renaissance a couple of days before. They were very, very impressive in their win over Ferndale. Ferndale, obviously, they're in lieu with some of their players, whether they're going to be eligible or not after transferring over from Detroit East English Village. I thought Flint Carman Ainsworth was very impressive, moved them into the top 10 after they wound up beating Detroit Cass Tech. They just beat Saginaw, who was in the top 10 by 25 points or something like that. So Mike Flesher, who's a Michigan State commit, played very, very well. And
for someone of his size, to be as agile and as smooth as he is on the blocks, I mean, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, Jaden Nunn is a sophomore from Flint Carman Ainsworth, and he was the guy who really turned it on for Carman Ainsworth in the fourth quarter. They overcame a 14-point lead. Cass missed some free throws coming down the stretch. But, I mean, it is what it is. DEPSA, the host there, they also beat Oak Park. I got to tell you, Malik Carr over at Oak Park is by far one of the most exciting players that I've seen, and he just –
And you've seen a lot.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys where he's just wired.
And he's got a motor, and he's relentless.
Yes.
And, this guy is a Windex man, cleaning the glass, every time
the car Steve McQueen is driving.
Yeah. Every shot that goes up, he's crashing the glass. He's got tremendous touch. He can get out on the open floor and finish. So he's going to have a tough choice between deciding to play Division I college football or Division I college basketball.
Well, there's a stretch over a couple weeks ago where he wound up pulling in offers from Notre Dame, Purdue, Michigan. I mean, it's like one of those things where it just kept on coming early. Christmas came early for Malik Carr, so that's great for him.
I'll tell you, one of the surprises is Clarkson not strong out of the gate.
Yeah, they start off 0-2. The two-time defending state champs. They're breaking in a whole new lineup. I expected there to be some growing pains. I thought, looking at this team in the summer, I still really like what I saw. They seem like an old school Clarkson team without maybe the high level Division I talent, except for the big man in the middle, junior Matt Nicholson. They got a bunch of kind of program kids that can shoot the ball, play really good defense, and kind of beat you with their basketball IQ. I was telling people before the season that I thought this team could still win between 15 and 17 games.
We're so programmed with football and everything now. It seems like basketball is the same way. You can't really think that Clarkson is going to have a down year.
And then to open up the season with losses against two kind of, I dare
Pontiac
say
is back.
Pontiac and Sterling Heights, Stevenson. These aren't, it's not like they lost to Benton Harbor and King. They lost to two teams that I anticipated them getting those two wins. So, in a matter of a couple days, I'm adjusting expectations, and now I'm thinking that this team might be lucky to win 12 or 11.
Well, speaking of King came up with a huge win on Saturday by beating River Rouge, and a lot of people, including myself, had Rouge as number 1, and King came in there. They come out there and do what they do, much similar to what Clarkston does, and they just come out there. They play tough. They're physical. They play defense, and they wound up really putting it on. The sophomore Omar Ziegler, who's a 6'3", 6'4" wing shooting guard, was phenomenal in the game and really stepped it up. And so, and just to see a couple of sophomores like that, there's some learning curve that has to go along, and maybe that's what Clarkston, with their young group, they obviously losing Foster Lawyer and so many other guys, C.J. Robinson, who had the ball in their hands.
They lost their entire rotation. Everyone that's playing right now didn't get minutes last year.
Right.
I mean, Matt Nicholson, their center, their junior big fella that's getting a lot of love right now from the power conferences. It was on varsity the last 2 years and didn't play.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of the things I'm going to make sure I go see is on Tuesday, December 18th, Cass Tech and King are at Cass Tech's house.
Yes.
So that is going to be an early season real statement game.
One note to make about Clarkson, though, these first 2 games they were playing without maybe their best player in freshman Keegan Wasilk, the nephew of head coach Tim Wasilk, who took over for Dan Fife. Keegan's brother Chase was a starter on the state championship team last year. And maybe injecting him into the lineup, will give them a boost.
Well, let's quickly do this before we go to our first timeout. Let's talk about your rankings that have just been released. They will be up if they're not already at statechampsnetwork.com. Be getting there soon. We'll kind of go over the Super 12. Which you got kind of right there at the top.
Yep.
And you've got and this is through all conferences, right?
No, the 12 that I have there
This is all D1.
All just
we
Division
just got
1.
these right before the broadcast. So so let's talk about Division 1, and you've got Muskegon at the top.
I do have Muskegon. I think Keith Guy was smart, realizing that you didn't have that extra week, so they didn't play any basketball, and I think their first game is going to be on Friday. But I really like what they have. They have size in the middle with Billy Roberts, who's a stud football player.
Another two-way guy that can really maybe write his own ticket for college football or basketball.
Yep. And then they also have a lot of strong guards. And then they have 2 transfers that came in. Jarvis Walker, who came over from Mona Shores, and then Dearius Ware, who just committed to Northwood, who's a really electric 6'3" wing. And then they have what you really need to win state championships, and that's guard play, and that's what DeAndre Carter and Cam Martinez and a few other guys bring to the table. So it's great to have that depth.
And Martinez is coming off that just unbelievable campaign that he had on the football field as quarterback in Muskegon into the state finals, and then he was a star Division VIII point guard as well as a star Division VIII quarterback the last couple of years at Muskegon Catholic Central.
And I will say this, one of the best things that we've seen transpire over the last few years is that, number one, because of there's no longer the all-star rule that if you go to an all-star game, you can't play another sport after that here. So for instance, if you go to the Army All-American game, you could still play, you just can't play that sport anymore, which who cares? Your football career is over anyway. So you can play basketball, you can run track, you can do those things. And because college coaches now are all saying, hey, we want multi-sport athletes, I think we're now going to see football players and those kind of guys playing these other sports more now, which is just going to make it more athletic and more exciting.
One comment about Darius Ware.
Like we used to have when we were talking about T.J. Duckett and Tyrone Wheatley and those guys back in the day. Who ran track and were amazing in track,
Quick comment about Darius
and
Ware.
basketball.
He's
only taking a charge.
Ware's only like 6'3", 6'4". This guy dunks like he's 6'8" or 6'9". I mean, he is a skywalker.
Yes, very electric.
So when you get out and watch a Muskegon game, just be aware that you're going to see some high-flying fireworks at the rim with Darius Ware.
Well, let's continue in Division 1. You got Wayne Memorial ranked 2.
You know what? I really like Wayne Memorial. They wound up beating Ann Arbor Skyline on Tuesday night. They went to Skyline and did that. One thing that I like
is Skyline the same, because they lost some pieces.
They lost some pieces, but they still have Deshaun Munson, Ryan Wade.
Okay.
Phenomenal players. Okay. Ryan Wade going to Holy Cross.
Yep.
But one thing I like about Wayne Memorial is they have size in the middle, and then they also have a really strong guard in Isaiah Lewis, who's a 4-year varsity player. And then they also have some quality role players. And I think that that's one thing where you can control the tempo of the game and you can control the boards. And I think that that's something that Wayne Memorial can do. And that's why I like them as much as I do Muskegon.
Don't they also got Dreyon O'Neal now?
And Dreyon O'Neal.
Came over from Edison, a big guy that can really impose his will down on the blocks.
Yep. And you know what? He's actually developed some skill and stuff like that now too, so he can put the ball on the floor.
Yeah, and it's great, for a school like Wayne Memorial, who basically in a lot of sports, just for whatever reason, doesn't find the success. It'd be great to have them have this one marquee program that really takes off, and they've always been good. Yeah, the Zebras. Yeah, and they've always been good, but it'd be great to see if they can really make a run.
I agree.
That would be awesome. And just as we wrap up Division I, UD Jesuit not going anywhere.
You know what? They were out. They lost to New Haven last Saturday. Is that an upset? I'm not necessarily sure because New Haven's got Romeo Weems. Yeah. Romeo Weems being one of the top players in the state,
but New Haven
arguably yes, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in a second. But at the same time, Romeo Weems, who's Mr. Basketball, who's won a state championship, who's played tons of games.
I call him the LeBron James of the mitten for the reason because he's a prep version in Michigan of what LeBron James does everything, scores, rebounds, dishes the ball, is a leader.
Yeah. Hashtag facts.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, a national baller. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
So,
But UD Jesuit is nice. They just need to make sure they have Jalen Thomas. Who was out on Saturday, but they still have Daniel Friday, the Brown commit, who has a lot of size, and then Julian Dozier also returned back to University of Detroit Jesuit, and Caleb Hunter will join them later on in January.
Jalen Thomas going to University of Massachusetts, maybe the best true big guy in terms of a prospect in the state, and then Daniel Friday, he's committed to Brown. To me, at least in Metro Detroit, the most versatile guard that we have. Just a guy that can, again, just do it all.
Jumping over to Division II, we'll kind of look at our top three right there that we have right now. And again, these were our TJ's preseason polls going into this, even though we already are a couple games into it. Still kind of counts as preseason first rankings. Benton Harbor 1, Williamston 2, River Rouge 3. Williamston just beating East Lansing.
I'm big on Williamston.
Yes, yeah. Williamston is that team. If you look at the three teams from Division II, Class B. Over the last couple of years, River Rouge has been in the Breslin. Same thing with Benton Harbor. Same thing with New Haven.
Yeah.
Williamston is that team that hasn't got over that hump to get there. But I really like their front court. They have Sean Cobb, who's going to go play at Grand Valley State. They also have one of the best. Joe Hannenberg is phenomenal, and then they also have one of the best freshmen in the state in Mason Docks, who will be out there and run the point.
And another team that has not got over the hump yet is Henry Ford. They have been there, but it's another team. You've still got them in the top 10.
Yes, I like them. I think that what Ken Flowers does with that team emphasizes all the smart things that help you win. The detailed things. We need to make sure that if we can trap somebody here, this is when we're going to trap them. They don't make mistakes. They're an excellent defending team, and they also have. They just do things as a unit more than just having a standout player.
And they got a nice backcourt in Bryant and Walker.
And Marbury's not bad either.
Yeah, and then I'm looking at his Class B rankings.
It's Division II now.
Sorry,
Division
no
II.
more classes.
I'm looking at Bridgeport at number 5. You know who I love? And this is another guy, football and basketball talent. Sirquarius Bell.
Yeah.
This kid, you want to talk about someone who attacks the rim like it stole something from him? I mean, thunderous slam dunks. A guy that I think he had 30 earlier this week or late last week.
Yeah, they just had a nice win. Was it over Henry Ford?
I'm not positive. I just know he had a really, really good game, and he's a guy to really keep your eye out for. And then at Country Day, they lost Wendell Green, their all-state point guard that transferred to a prep school in Indiana, LaLue. And they lost Miko Stewart, another one of their Fab Frosh last year, who's over at Brother Rice right now. But they still got Julian Roper and could be the top sophomore in the state. A 6'5", could still be growing. A guy that's on the wing, can crash the glass, can slash, can hit the open jumper. Already got an offer from Iowa. So, he's probably the next, not probably, he is the next great Country Day basketball player in a program that has a incredibly rich lineage, going back to, the Chris Webbers and the Shane Battiers, Ray McCallums.
Yeah, absolutely. In Division III, we talked about Beecher already. You've got them up there at the top. Maple City, Glen Lake, and, of course, Dansville. And we talked about Dansville a lot last year.
Yeah. Caleb Hodgson, to me, is a walking double-double, especially in Division III. He's a guy that can get 25 points, 15 rebounds, pretty much locks down the post. I think he'll, along with Jalen Terry and a couple of other guys, Xander Okerlund perhaps from Glen Lake, will be the Division III Player of the Year. Or at least, he was an all-state player last year. He's going to be an all-state player this year. And he's one of those guys where you really have to pay a lot of attention to. Otherwise, you'll be on the losing end a lot of times.
I like Reese Hazelton.
And Reese Hazelton is another guy.
The wing, junior wing, had a really good Final Four last year.
Yep. Kind of had a coming out party.
Yep. And then, moving, going down to who TJ has at number 4, Iron Mountain, Foster Wonders.
Yes. Yep.
Really nice. And then
they've got the Marcus Johnson,
leading scorer in the UP.
Yep.
So and then DEPSA, Brian Taylor, a guy that's kind of been overlooked, but he was the one underclassman or the one junior that started on that state championship team. He opened the season with, I think, a 31 ball against Oak Park, and he's a guy that could be a real diamond in the rough when we're talking recruiting.
Yeah. He just needs to really find consistency. University of Detroit, that was their new staff there with Mike Davis. That was their first offer to any of the Detroit kids, was to extended to Brian Taylor. Very intriguing. I also know that Boston University is recruiting him. He's one of those kids when he's 21, 20 years old, if he has the opportunity to be redshirted and he's a little bit stronger, people are going to talk about him, hopefully on some March on a CBS channel, if I can mention them or whatever, for March Madness.
Yeah.
But, I think that's one of those things where they're going to say, and this kid wasn't even ranked.
Right.
Right. And so it's one of those things where, hey, basketball isn't done just because high school basketball is over with. You still have a lot to work on.
Right. And quickly, Maple City, Glen Lake at 2.
Maple City, Glen Lake is phenomenal. I think that they're runner-ups last year. I think that their poise is, if let's say this, I think that Beecher and Glen Lake, they'll both be in the Breslin, and we'll see who else makes it from Class C or Division.
I really like that Glen Lake team, and we just talked about two of their best players in their senior and their junior, and it's nothing but blue skies for that program going forward.
And in Division IV, we've got Frankfort, Triunity Christian, and Battle Creek St. Philip at the top. Southfield Christian at 5.
Yeah, Southfield Christian dropped to 0-2. Bubba Humphreys, the junior, got some playing time last year or great minutes last year, but now all the weight is on his shoulders.
And I saw him opening night.
Yeah.
Bubba looked good. I think he had 25, 26. Mm-hmm. Scouts were in the some Division I scouts were in the stands. He's got a couple offers already. But with Harlan Beverly leaving and Caleb Hunter leaving, they've just gone from a team that could compete with maybe any team in the state to a team that will be a good Class D team. I think still has a chance to go to the Breslin Center as a Class D squad.
Right, they're just going to have to scratch and claw to get there.
The difference between
the
past, let's say 6 years of Southfield Christian, where you could put that lineup on the floor and they could go toe-to-toe with almost any team, Class A, B, C, or D, or now Division 1, 2, 3, or 4. Things have kind of changed in that regard. But two names I think you should keep an eye out for Southfield Christian this year, fill in the gaps left by Caleb Hunter, who's at Jesuit right now, and Harlan Beverly, the 4-star recruit that's at Montverde down in Florida. John Sanders is a senior, looked really good against, he's a senior shooting guard wing who was on the bench last year, didn't get a lot of minutes. He's an athletic, crafty guy on the perimeter. Scored 20 against South A&T in the loss. And then Jimmy King, the former Fab Five shooting guard, played in the NBA for a second. He has a son, Malcolm King, who's a 6'4" sophomore. Looks like he could grow a little bit. He looked real good in that first game.
Hey, well, 6'4". I mean, who needs to grow anymore?
Yeah.
You and I are.
And then I'm looking at Howardsville Christian at 7. They got one of the best shooters in the state in Dylan Jurgens, who's taken a preferred walk-on spot at Central Michigan.
Yep.
I believe Howardsville Christian got to the quarters last year.
I believe so.
Yeah.
But he'll be one of the top scorers. He and Zach Goodline in the state, and I think that Dylan has an opportunity to be Class D Player of the Year.
Dylan scored 32 a game last year.
And how about those Frankfurt Panthers?
Yeah,
they're just the Frankfurt Panthers. They just go out there and they're able to do things. They've got, it's one of those things when you have smaller communities. Everybody, I want to be like this kid. Kids are hungry.
Oh yeah.
I want to have my name in the Raptors.
Those names that you hear for 30 years,
like Powers North Central when they were having their run.
Without a doubt. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Okay, good stuff. So that is our first segment. We're going to take our first time out. When we come back here on HangTime, we're going to talk about hot topics, talk about some of the best returning players, some Mr. Basketball hopefuls. We got to get into Imani Bates. Right, Imani Bates,
yep.
Right,
yep.
From Ypsilanti Lincoln, and Renaissance situation. We want to talk a little bit about that, and some of the prep school issues that we're having, where we're seeing our guys, Carrington McCaskill, the latest, to head off.
We got 8 guys that should be playing in the state of Michigan right now. They're at prep school.
Yeah, so we'll get into that when HangTime returns.
Fundraising should be fresh, flavorful, and simple. We have the perfect solution at Hungry Howie's. Dough Raiser. Your team or school can sell paper pizza certificates that can be redeemed for 1 medium pizza at participating locations.
We've been doing this fundraiser for about 4 years, and it's the easiest and best and most profitable fundraiser they have in Michigan.
Go to doughraiser.com to learn more and sign up. Your next fundraiser comes with flavored crust. Welcome to Hungry Howie's Dough Raiser.
Welcome back to the first edition of State Champs HangTime for the 2018-2019 basketball season. I'm Lorne Plant, Scott Burnstein, TJ Kelly here. We're holding it down. We just kind of talked a whole lot about TJ's rankings, which you can catch on the website right now, statechampsnetwork.com. And we also talked about some of the early surprises, some of the games, some of the teams playing hot out of the gate, some not so hot out of the gate. But again, it is early. We're only in the beginning of December, so the basketball season just getting going. We want to talk about some of the hot topics that were before the season and continue on right now into the season. First off, just a couple of notes on some of the best returning players that we have. We kind of mentioned a little bit about Romeo Weems and what he is. Obviously, Carlos Scoopy Johnson is another one.
Who hit a game winner on the opener.
Yeah.
Kind of just continuing the
dovetailing
trend
from the final.
From the game that he hit to win the state championship.
Yeah, so who would you say, and this kind of goes in with the Mr. Basketball favorites as well, even though Mr. Basketball is a senior award, but some of the best returning players in the state this year?
We talked about Flint Beecher in the previous segment. I'm a huge fan of Jalen Terry. I think that in talking with Mike Williams, the head coach at Beecher, 5-time state champion at Flint Beecher, he's talked about Jalen kind of coming into his own and understanding that. Sorry about that. All right. What you're talking about, Jalen Terry, who is kind of coming into his own. That's what head coach Mike Williams has looked for him to do in leading Beecher. He's almost been one of those guys where he's kind of gone by the side and not really taken on this is my team. And in doing that, he really showed what he could do this past Saturday in a win over Ferndale. I believe that that's going to keep on continuing. And he and Ernest Sanders, the other outstanding junior for Beecher, just look like they're really out there having a really good time, but also have the mentality of we're the baddest dudes on the court. You're not going to beat us, and that crowd is cheering for us. See you at the Breslin.
Jalen is the next great Flintstone, from that basketball hotbed of Flint, and a guy that is just really the definition of a fierce, fearless, flashy floor general that can wow you with what he's doing in the open court, can wow you what he's doing in the half court, and then he's very fundamentally sound too. So you put those things together and you have one heck of a point guard. But he's only a junior, and I would say him and Lauren Bowman, the combo guard over at Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who just committed to Wisconsin, probably the front runners for the 2020 Mr. Basketball Award. But if we're talking about, in 2019, you're talking about Romeo Weems, Chandler Turner's another guy now that kind of takes the place of his teammate Carrington McCaskill, who looked like, or his former teammate over at Renaissance, who looked like he was going to kind of be the guy from the PSL.
Yeah, Mr. PSL.
It looked like he was going to be the guy from the PSL to be in that Mr. Basketball race. He recently went off to prep school at Spire. So now I think Chandler Turner kind of emerges as the PSL candidate.
Yeah, 6'7" kid, right?
Yeah, 6'6". Yeah, but I mean, he's just a stat filler.
Yeah.
You know, he just goes out there and does a little bit of everything, but he winds up with 18 points a game, right around double-digit rebounds, you know, a handful of assists, handful of block shots. And that's what you kind of expect in seniors. And I think that Chandler is one of those guys.
Real hard-nosed,
Yep.
A type of guy that, has a level of composure in the backcourt that reminds me of his brother, Justin Turner. Where now Justin Turner's...
Justin's not brother.
What did he say?
Justin's not his brother. Sorry.
Oh. Can we cut that out?
Yeah. You
Yeah,
Wait,
sorry, I needed to cut. Yeah. No relation.
No relation? The
No
guard
relation.
from... Oh, okay.
No relation. Yeah.
Ignore that. Take that all out.
You got that, Kevin?
I was gonna leave it in there, but
No.
that was all good. But
We won't embarrass.
Justin Turner is not... But he's going to Bowling Green?
Yeah, no, yeah, he's not.
So the kid,
Chandler
Chandler Turner
I know,
from Renaissance is going to Bowling Green.
I know Justin's parents and I know Chandler's parents.
Wow. Okay.
They're not one and the same.
Yeah.
Ignore that. Where should I start that off? Just ignore me what I was saying about that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I want you to. I don't want to sound stupid.
Yeah, you would sound stupid.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
mean,
I'm talking
I just assumed that they both were both at Renaissance and they were both going to Bowling Green. That they were.
Well, they built a relationship with Vito. Bowling Green did.
Okay.
Or you could say that they got their second Turner. And
All right.
you know.
So, was I in the middle of
Seniors.
something for Chandler Turner? All right.
Just
never mind.
wrap up a Chandler Turner
Okay.
comment.
Chandler Turner's the type of guy that is really going to be a game changer in the PSL, someone to look for in the Mr. Basketball race. You can't look past, if we're talking about Mr. Basketball in terms of big fellas, Jalen Thomas over at UD Jesuit, probably the most highly touted traditional big guy in the state, just a fly swatter, a guy that's going to get you 10, 12 rebounds every game, 4 or 5 blocks. And his offensive game has really been developing over the last couple of years. And then Daniel Friday, also at UDJ, a guy that I mentioned earlier in the broadcast. I really love his versatility. The diverse skill set is the type of guard that can score, can rebound, can dish. So a lot of talent coming out of the Catholic League this year between Bowman, Thomas, and Julian Dozier, another junior point guard.
Senior
Point guard at.
It's okay.
I'm glad I got.
It's okay.
I'm glad I got
Yeah,
TJ here.
Exactly.
Julian,
You just riffing.
I just forgot because Dozier left the state for a year and now he's back. So I kind of
academically he's a sophomore.
lost place of what grade he was in. But between Friday, Thomas, and Bowman and Dozier in the Catholic League, not counting those guys over at Catholic Central, Justin Rucat and Davis Lukomsky and Brendan Downs, you got a lot of talent in the Catholic League this year.
I really like the Ann Arbor area. The seniors that they're returning. I think that Kayshawn Pryor, 6'7", 6'8", senior at Ann Arbor Pioneer, had a solid game last Saturday. In their win, he's got numerous mid-major offers with a lot of high majors that are paying attention to him. He's a guy that can stretch the floor, shoot the ball, and he's athletic, just needs to get stronger, but he's going to put up great stats. His teammate, Drew Lauder, who's committed to Holy Cross, is also one of those guys who's going to put up great numbers, and it always comes down to Mr. Basketball. We've seen in the past where teammates split votes, you split stats, and there's a whole bunch of other things that go into it. I think that winning will help them as far as that goes. Also sticking in Ann Arbor, Ryan Wade, who's also going to Holy Cross.
Holy Cross has come in here and it's gotten three
guys.
prospects over the last year. Blake Verbeek, center right now, is a freshman there from the west side of the state. And
John
now they've got their backcourt of the future from Ann Arbor, from Ryan Wade at Skyline and Drew Lauder, who for my money, the best pure point guard in the state of Michigan. Exactly. You're just talking about someone that you want to be a floor general to run your team. I'm going to take Drew Lauder.
He's electric.
Well, the link to the Holy Cross is Holy Cross assistant David Metzendorf is from Ann Arbor. and went to Pioneer. A young guy who just decided, hey, I'm going to go out there and I want to be a coach. Didn't have aspirations of playing college basketball and other such. But I also like some of the guys over at Ypsi. I think that Cade Augustine is one of those kids, and we'll see him on December 22nd, where he's a big, and I think that he's one of those guys where he's got the size, he's got the athleticism, and he's got the motor where he can really go out there and do some dominating things. And I think, he's one of the reasons why I have Ypsilanti so high in my rankings, just because I think that, he's one of those studs from Ann Arbor. But going on to other Mr. Basketball guys, we've already talked about Caleb Hodgson.
Yeah.
Nolan Foster?
Nolan Foster being another. They play each other this Saturday in Grand Rapids.
Another big guy?
Yep, and unsigned senior. But I think that Caleb Hodgson is one of those guys. He's going to put up great numbers.
From what school?
And he's at Dansville.
Yep.
And so he's going to put up gaudy numbers, which is really going to help him, put him, further along in the Mr. Basketball rankings.
Foster's at Mattawan.
Yep, and Foster, Nolan Foster's
And
at
then
Mattawan.
don't forget about it, Mattawan senior Dexter Schaus came over from transferred from Indiana, and he's going to Coastal Carolina. So he's a Division I kid.
Yeah.
He could be in the mix.
Yep.
I think when you're talking about sleepers for Mr. Basketball and even for Mr. PSL, Detroit King point guard Jordan Whitford is a kid that I think could make some noise.
Yeah, I think he's the heart and soul of that team.
And they're playing great out of the gate.
Yes, yeah, that was their win. Their win on last Saturday over River Rouge.
Yeah.
was a statement for them, and kind of like that everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth, and King was the one that was punching.
And then out of the OAA, Donovan Moore, an electric combo guard going to Toledo. His dad was Larry Moore, all-state big guy down at Mumford back in the 60s, was the coach at West Bloomfield, took the boys and girls basketball programs at West Bloomfield to the Final Four in the 2000s. His son was living out in Chicago, and his grandson Donovan moved to Michigan last year, came and lived with Larry, had a really good year, played the second half of last year because he wasn't eligible the first semester. He had a 40 ball like in his second or third game in the state of Michigan. So Donovan Moore he's a silky smooth southpaw. To look for him coming out of the OAA to maybe be a sleeper in the Mr. Basketball race.
And he's also committed to Toledo. Sticking with another MAC commit, B. Artis White from Canton.
Who we'll see December 22nd.
Who we'll see on December 22nd.
Yes, exactly.
Whose dad is Benny White.
Whose dad is Benny White, who's now
played at
Birmingham Groves.
Played at Michigan State for Doug
and coaching in the OAA White, shall I say, the best conference in the OAA.
The red
division.
The red might be taking a couple steps back this year.
OAA White versus the OAA Red.
White, we're talking about great guard play. At Farmington High School, they have a three-headed monster of a backcourt in sophomores Jaden Akins and Tariq Humes, and then a transfer over from East English Village, Tariq Shepard. And those three combined for 75 points in their first game. So all three hit for 25. That is a scary thought.
That is scary.
And they also have a
deep.
Yeah, and they also have a 6'7" big who just joined the fray.
And he just came from California. I can't pronounce his name. His last name's Coley.
We call him California.
But
California
Cali Coley had a double-double in his first game in the state of Michigan, had 11 points, 10 boards. He's a big boy with some nice touch down low.
All right, well, speaking of big boys with some nice touch, we got to talk about the freshmen and the freshman class, which could be as good as we've ever
had
seen,
in a long time,
or at least in a long time. And it starts with Imani Bates, 6'8", 170 pounds. They were playing at Eastern Michigan to open the thing, so it looked like he's playing a college game.
The real deal Holyfield, as advertised.
That's right.
This is the
nation's top freshman.
This is a blue chipper that everyone needs to get out and see. I'm calling him, he's Josh Jackson with more athleticism and a better jump shot.
Yeah, he's like Kevin Durant, probably was when he was in high school in terms of his length and athleticism and how he can get up.
And he's only a freshman.
Bring it down.
He's only a freshman. He's got a better jumper than Josh Jackson
than
Josh Jackson has now in the NBA.
Right.
Yeah, the thing that was really intriguing to me about Bates, and I try not to watch too many kids play middle school just because I think it's putting the cart before the horse.
Yeah, you really are.
And so I was kind of skeptical about this, and you hear things, and so I had the opportunity to watch him play multiple times this past summer, and I was amazed at his guard skills. I think that I was wondering, I was like, he's so thin.
Yeah.
Is he going to get knocked around in the paint, and all this? And I was like, kid doesn't have to go in the paint. He can play from 15 feet and up. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if you're at the game in Eastern Michigan to start the season, then all of a sudden you see that, hey, wow, he's setting that jumper.
Yep.
He's setting you up because then he could put the ball on the floor,
Exactly.
and he's going to dunk on you.
He's
going to dunk on you.
The explosion factor that he comes off on the break.
The first step.
You didn't see that from Josh Jackson.
Right.
Josh Jackson, so much of that was Josh Jackson's hoop IQ, and that's to his credit.
Yeah.
He was such a smart player.
Yeah.
He could do so much, but he didn't have the jumping ability that Bates has. He didn't have the explosion that Bates has.
Yeah.
And
Bates' 3-pointers are already good.
Yeah. I mean, he's a reliable shooter. You have to defend him. I think one of the other things that I also see with this class with Imani Bates, and I remember going back to when we had Josh Jackson, we had this mysterious kid up in Flint, Miles Bridges, who not allowed, and people in Flint would say, no, he's the best.
Yeah.
Well, if you go up to Grand Blanc, they got a kid up there, Ty Rogers, and they'll say, well, he might be the best right now, and that's just in high school.
Sure.
Imani Bates long term is, phenomenal. I mean, when that 2022 stuff comes around, and you don't have to go to college anymore,
right?
I'm sure that there will be some guys out there, and they play. Ypsi Lincoln plays Saline, I think on Friday or early next week, and in that game you have Yaklich's son over at the assistant at University of Michigan, and so I'm sure that he will take in that game and get a sneak peek at Imani Bates.
Best point guard, in my opinion, in the freshman class, Kareem Rozier, running the point for Orchard Lake St. Mary's. He had his first game back on Saturday against Dakota and went head-to-head with another college-bound guard in Ryan Rollins. And Ryan Rollins is only a junior. Kareem Rozier, like I said, first game, playing at Callahan Hall, a lot of pressure on him. 21 points, 6 assists, 3 or 4 steals, and was just doing everything you could ever ask a point guard to do. He was a freshman playing like he was a senior or a freshman in college. That was the type of floor game that he was bringing to the table. Was hitting 3-pointers, was getting in the lane. I saw him on a break switch hands. He's a righty. He switched hands to his left, finger rolled with his left in traffic. He's only about 5'8", maybe 5'9". Reminded me a little of Rashad Phillips when Rashad Phillips was a freshman at Ferndale back in the 90s, as a guy that you look at him and you're like, is this kid in 6th grade or 7th grade? Or kind of like a Foster Lawyer when he first, Mr. Basketball last year, when he first stepped out on the floor as a freshman, you were kind of doing a double take, like, is this is the kid that everyone's hyping up?
Right.
And then the game starts and the ball's tipped and he's, breaking people down and, eating the competition for lunch.
Yeah, when production matches potential at that early age, I think that's one of the best things. A couple of other younger guys. We talked about Jaden Akins over at Farmington, and we also talked about Julian Roper. I'm also a big fan of a kid, Kobe Buffkin, who's a 6'3" sophomore at Grand Rapids Christian. And I think that, and I had those guys in my rankings. I don't know what number they were, 16, 17, 18 or whatever, but I just started them off with really good.
Buffkin's just like a Sir Grind-A-Lot, a kid that's going to beat you with his will and his energy, and a kid that just does damage anytime he gets in the lane. Yeah,
and all three of those kids, they know each other. I had the opportunity this summer, with the Michigan Elite 25 to watch those guys really go at it, and I mean it's phenomenal, and then past the Elite 25s and stuff like that. But to watch those guys when they really want to compete against each other, because that's the only iron sharpens iron. Yeah. And if you see that, and when the guys really push themselves, that's you go back to some of the other classes, 2013 with Monty Morris and Derek Walton and all those guys, where it seemed like they just pushed each other. And I think that that's one of the things that just having that rivalry, that camaraderie and the rivalry, where I'm gonna see you on the next level.
Yeah, I see a lot of Monty Morris and Jalen Terry.
Yeah, way more athletic.
Jalen Terry is.
Yes. I'm not sure that Jalen's going to get to the 6'4" that Monty Morris is, but I'll tell you this, probably going to win another state championship.
Will of a
champion.
champion.
Same thing as Monty Morris.
And the other freshman I want to mention is one of Bates' Bates Fundamentals teammates from his day is Javon Hanna, who we'll see for Mount Clemens here on December 22nd as they take on Westland John Glenn, which will be a good test for them.
Kind of staying back in the shadows
6'4" kid.
When Bates and Rogers and Rozier are getting a lot of the pub, but you can't look past this guy.
He'll stick.
Michigan State already looking at him.
Yep. And he's already got size. I mean, he's been in the weight room.
7-8 years ago, he had Thomas Hanna was a gunner at Mount Clemens. I think that's one of his older brothers, and The bathers, man. They're
bringing the Clem back.
Bathing in that swagger that
that's right.
that Hannah brings.
Yeah, and we want to see that. And so, I would imagine you come to December 22nd, probably up in the rafters. You might see Beeline and Izzo if they're not busy coaching a game, watching these young men go at it. So that will be very cool. So that is just a part of what's happening, and it's a freshman, revolution right now. Quickly, let's just comment, since it's our first time getting a chance to talk here, about the Renaissance situation. And it's kind of, I won't say it's done now.
I wish I could say that the worst is behind us.
Yeah.
But I sense that this is going to be something that we're dealing with throughout the course of the season. The reverberations, the ripple effects from what happened back in September.
And just kind of give it a quick rundown for those who aren't familiar with it of what took place.
Vito Jordan had been the coach at Renaissance the last 5 years. He came over from Detroit Community, which he had led into the Class B state finals. So he had a winning pedigree. Comes over to Renaissance, has 5 good years. Took him to the PSL title game twice. Had a team coming back this year that a lot of people were saying could have been in the mix for the best team in the state. Definitely, probably the best team in the PSL. They had a threesome of seniors that all are going to play college basketball. They had, I should say, between Carrington, McCaskill, Chandler Turner, and Keelan Grant. I keep wanting to call him Harper. Keelan Grant, who was at Renaissance, left to go to Texas and came back, but he's got some Division I offers. So there was a lot of excitement from the summer coming in to the regular season. New principal takes over, comes over from Seaholm, Verinda Strouder. First week on the job, makes the decision that she doesn't want Vito Jordan as her coach. Brings Vito into her office and pretty much tells him that he's fired. She wants to bring Mark White, the former Renaissance coach who had been at River Rouge, had taken River Rouge to the last 2 Final Fours in Class B. White had won 2 state championships at Renaissance in the 2000s, wants to bring him back, offers him the job, offers him a position in the building that would have been paying him something like close to $80,000 a year. He accepts it for about 10 hours, 11 hours, gets cold feet, backs out, tries to go back to River Rouge. They don't want him. He ends up now at Romulus Summit Academy. We should mention that Summit Academy's got a really good freshman, in Orlando Lovejoy, who's scored something like 70 points in his first 2 games. At that point, they give the job to John White, the former Southfield Christian assistant who had been on the bench for those 4 Class D state championships. He played at Bishop Borges, won a state title as a player back in the 90s. He takes over. Before he takes over, there's this kind of resistance between the players and their parents that were very close to Vito and really protested Vito's dismissal.
Right.
John White comes in. You have a lot of players that aren't happy with the situation. Carrington McCaskill, who was their star player, their number 1 player, is committed to Florida Atlantic. Averaged, first team All-State last year, averaged 17-10. He had floated the idea that he might boycott his senior season, ended up coming out when practice started. There was some turmoil there. First game last week against Beecher. That morning, on that Tuesday morning, McCaskill decides to leave the team and transfers to Spire. The Renaissance administration put out some type of tweet saying that he had been dismissed from the team for conduct detrimental to the program.
Well, when you leave, that's conduct detrimental to the program.
Kind of like
so you're not here anymore.
Right.
He said, she said, and
a lot of that.
You just have a lot of questions. Yeah. More questions than answers right now. Kind of 3 months into Vito's dismissal, and then the circus that led to John White eventually taking over. And John White is I think for the long term, John White coming to Renaissance is going to be a good thing. He's someone that knows how to implement a winning program. He's someone that represents a lot of the values and a lot of the intangibles, as well as the tangible things that you need to build a program. I just think you're almost, he's walking into a hornet's nest. Right. And I don't know if that hornet's nest has stopped buzzing yet. Right. And I don't know. I sense, and I hope they prove me wrong, I sense this is a Renaissance team that could have been contending for a state championship, could have been contending for 20 wins, and instead this could be like a 500 level Renaissance team.
Yeah, I remember the last time Renaissance kind of went through this change with Mark White, and then they wound up hiring Randy Henry. And in that team that you had with Randy Henry's new team, and this is going back to 2009, with Paul Williams and Stacy Waters, and you had some other guys on that team. Yeah. Carson Butler was on that team. And these guys had won so many games, and I remember watching them play against Detroit Country Day. And it was almost like their season, they were ready when that game was over. I remember Carson Butler maybe like knocking D Brown from Country Day, who wanted to go on to play in Bowling Green, like on the ground, and just like kind of like walked over to the bench like, hey, that's my 5th foul. I'm sitting down. My high school basketball career is over. And like I'm with you with Scott, I'm sure with you, Lorne, that I hope that that's not the case. I think that there are some ways that you can transition maybe a little bit better, and understanding that, hey, I'm dealing with seniors, and I'm coming from, speaking, about John White. Hey, I'm coming into a team where I'm the new guy on the block, and as we've been high school seniors and stuff like that, we're the cool guys. We're the guys that get to look, this is the school that we've been involved in for the last 3 or 4 years. We've earned everything that we're gearing towards, and sometimes that transition, you have to be able to, it's a delicate situation, and you have to kind of hey, you guys are smart enough. I'm going to build you guys up with confidence, and it's almost like the transition. We kind of talked about it earlier. Maybe I brought it up. It's like when you have the split families, and all of a sudden you bring in stepfather, you bring in stepmother, and all of a sudden, hey, you got to deal with some kids and stuff like that. Well, they still remember who their dad is. They still go visit their dad on visitation and stuff like that. And it's one of those things where they've really got to be on board, and it goes far beyond basketball. It's just one of those things. In dealing with certain situations.
And just being frank, the way that the Renaissance administration laid the foundation for this change, it was almost impossible to have a smooth transition.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about with John White walking into a hornet's nest. Yep. And it was nothing that John White could do. It was nothing the players can do. This kind of goes back to the administration for, pouring the concrete on this building and, like I said, laying the foundation. And the foundation right now isn't incredibly sturdy.
Right.
And you just hope that in the long run, and I'm confident it will, John White will be able to, stabilize the program and install what he wants to install. But when you have a group of kids that are a senior-laden group that all were incredibly loyal to Vito and all love Vito, it's not shocking that there's been some bumps in the road. And it's just, again, it's unfortunate that Carrington ended up leaving, and just kind of creates more smoke in this kind of 3-alarm fire that's occurring over at Renaissance.
So that segues into our next final topic of our hot topics for this week, and that is the amount of kids who've left to prep schools. And Spire Institute has definitely
they got 5.
benefited from some of the ones that we've lost. That's a team that already has LaMelo Ball.
Yep.
Is on that squad.
He came after the Detroit kids.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep,
there
right.
you go. That is true.
It's Rockets' team.
Yeah, so Mark Rocket Watts is on that team, and Isaiah Jackson is on that team, and Andre Polk is on that team, and
Myron Gardner.
Yep.
We're just like
Carrington McCaskill.
Right there.
All-state basketball players
between Rocket, between Carrington, between Myron Gardner, those are arguably, 3 candidates for Mr. Basketball that we no longer have. Obviously everybody's free to make their own decisions. Family makes their own decisions. My biggest philosophy is, it's not my kid. As long as the kid's not going out there robbing banks or anything like that.
Let people know that Jermaine Jackson's the head coach at
Jermaine Jackson.
So there's a Detroit connection
there.
The
University of Detroit Mercy standout.
Yep, that's right.
Former NBA player for the Pistons
NBA
and the Toronto Raptors. Former Mount Clemens head coach and UD Mercy assistant coach.
I think he was in Jerry Stackhouse's wedding as well. Anything else to?
So, he took the job this summer and made a concerted effort to bring some Motown firepower with him over across the border to Ohio at Spire Academy. Then about a month ago, the walking reality show that is the Ball family, the Kardashians of the sports world, land at Spire. They get LaMelo Ball, and then last week they get Carrington McCaskill. But in terms of where we are right now in the state of Michigan,
and I do want to mention just one other thing, and Wendell Green.
Wendell Green's at La Lu.
At La Lu in Indiana.
Yeah.
La Lumiere.
Yeah, and
which
then
is another
Harlan
prep
Beverly.
school.
Harlan Beverly left Southfield Christian.
Mm-hmm.
He's another guy that would have been a
Another
surefire
Mount
Mr.
Vernon.
Basketball
for sure.
Candidate. Is at Mount
Front
Vernon.
runner.
Yeah, Romeo was dancing. Romeo was get to go back like this
Yeah.
with those 4 guys out there.
Right.
He's
Which
over
is
at
so
Mount Vernon.
interesting because we have all these great freshmen now coming in, and
hope they stay, and you hope they
and
stay.
that's going to be the question.
And
I
really,
mean,
you can go back 5 years when the floodgates kind of opened for this. Josh Jackson and
Right.
Miles Bridges
Yeah, I mean,
and Tugs Bowman.
With
I'm
Alice
sorry, Tugs
Legion that
Bowen.
left.
Oh, yeah.
Alice Legion's the guy that wound up
Well,
going
he
to
left.
Oakland
This
as
was-
well.
yeah,
And that's
15
what
years ago,
2007.
whatever,
Yeah.
10 years ago. yeah.
So I kind of look at it. The guys are looking at it and saying, "Oh, well, you know what? I need this extra exposure,
Yeah,
and I need this. I get to play on TV." I look at some of the scores, and I'm just like, "Oh, you beat this team by 50 points." I mean, is that really what you want?
think
You have games that are being canceled
Right.
or being rescheduled, or and it's just one of those things where, I look at Monty Morris, I look at Khalil Felder, I look at some of these other guys who made it to the league, James Young, and they played high school basketball here in Michigan.
And they played AAU too.
Yeah.
So it's not
Yeah.
like they weren't playing great competition in the
Right.
summer. That was more of the, so it gives coaches two perspectives. Number one, how do you play with the stars?
Yep.
And number two, how do you lead a team?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's so in college, you look at like Cassius Winston, he's now at that point where he's going to become a great player, or he's not, but he's doing it at a high level at Michigan State, and I think it's because of what he had to do at UD Jesuit High School, and that is lead his team
And
to
everyone
upper heights.
it's their right as the player, it's their right as the family to make the move. But I would just caution that all that glitters isn't always gold, and what looks great on the surface sometimes can be a little deceptive. Because look at something like Harlan Beverly.
Right.
He had every offer you could ever want.
Yep.
So going to Mount Verde ain't going to get him offers he didn't have. And then go to the other side of it. Wendell Green come from Country Day, went over to La Lu. I mean, I'm guessing pretty much every scout that were coming into the area were looking at Wendell Green last year.
Yeah.
If they were going to offer him, they were going to offer him last year at Country Day. It's not like a magic pill that you take the pill, you drink it down with a glass of water, and then all of a sudden Michigan State, and Ohio State are at your doorstep. So, I mean, don't tell me that Wendell Green staying at Country Day that he wasn't going to get the offers. If the offers were there to be got, he would be getting them at Country Day, just like Julian Roper's going to get them.
Yeah, and I kind of look at it even when some kids that was in it's killing Billy Thomas, who wound up leaving, to prep school, and then he wound up coming back and left University of Detroit Jesuit, but then he wound up going to prep school and then coming back to North Farmington.
Talk about just before you finish.
Yep.
Let's not forget about the trend of this, the kind of in the middle trend of kids leaving and then coming back.
Yes.
There's been a number of those over the last couple of years.
Right.
Sorry, TJ.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I look at it, if you have college coaches that are coming in to watch you play, like Billy Thomas, you get to play against Cassius Winston every single day. The guys that are watching Cassius Winston, they're also watching you.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, those guys don't know what they always, you and I get the finger pointed at us, those guys don't know what they're talking about. I was like, hey, I can reach out to Izzo, I can reach out to Beeline, I can reach out to all these guys. They come and watch you play. Then they're going to be the ones that are going to make the decision, because I'm not going to be the one to tell Beeline or Izzo, hey, you don't know what you're doing. I have brought up Yante Maton and stuff like that to the guys at Michigan State.
Yes.
And it's like, hey, it is what it is.
I was pleading with them. I was calling them every day, pleading with them. Please come and get this kid.
But hey, it is what it is, and I think that people need to study what's going on with other kids and their record about going to prep schools, rather than just saying, I'm going to go to prep school and this is going to happen for me. Because trust me, that prep school coach is going to tell you, I can help you do this. I can help you do that. I talked to Billy Thomas as soon as he got the Louisiana Tech offer. And I was like, hey, congratulations on your offer. You know, what other ones do you have? And he wound up mentioning Louisiana State and not mentioning Louisiana Tech. What that told me was that the coach at the prep school gave a call down to the guys at Louisiana Tech and said, hey, you need to offer this kid. Hey, cool, we'll be up there. Coach goes over to Billy Thomas and says, hey, Louisiana Tech is going to be up here and they're going to offer you. Billy Thomas goes to Twitter, just got an offer from Louisiana Tech because his coach misled him. You know?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he doesn't even know the difference between Louisiana Tech or Louisiana State.
Yeah.
You know, he probably couldn't even tell you the colors.
Right.
You know? And so it's one of those things where, you know, it's people have to start falling for, you know, the I guess some of the fool's gold out there. I understand why some kids wind up going prep school or wind up going to prep school. If for kids that wind up leaving before, you know, their senior year.
I mean, for
before their
Harlan can
junior
say he
year,
wants to play against better competition because he's
Yeah.
been in Class D.
I can-
But
I
it's not
get it.
it's not an offer issue. And another thing I want to point out before we end this discussion, in the new technology age, in 2018 and going forward, nobody's hidden.
Nobody.
You could be playing in your mom's basement, and if you're good enough, someone's going to be taping you in the basement.
Yeah.
The tape's going to hit social media, is going to hit YouTube, and a coach is going to see it.
I'll give you a perfect example. Jake Witt was a senior last year, was at Michigan Tech, from Ewan Trout Creek in the Upper Peninsula. And I remember getting a video on him, sending it out to a whole bunch of guys. Guys at Michigan Tech said, you know, you didn't have to do that. You know, his mom also works at Michigan Tech. So, he was pretty much stuck on going to where he was going to go to Michigan Tech. And my thing is, if you are on Lake Superior and you can be found, then it's not an exposure thing if you are in the Detroit metro area. If there's electricity somewhere around, then somebody's going to wind up finding you, and they're going to wind up seeing you.
Look at Williams, or the kid is at Purdue now, from Dearborn, Henry Ford.
Oh, yeah, Trey Williams.
Trey Williams.
Yeah.
I mean, he was, basically playing at.
And nobody knew, but this is the thing. Nobody knew who he was as a freshman at Chicago. And so the thing is, just be patient. You know, like you're only a freshman or sophomore. You're going to go to college as a 14 or 15-year-old kid. No.
Trevion
and so he wound up
Williams
coming here, and then he wound up blowing up. Guys wound up coming in and seeing him
Trevion
play.
Williams was basically playing against the state champs all-stars. I mean, he was playing against nobody in a gym that was the size of my bathroom.
Got a cork board.
But Purdue and Michigan State and Michigan all offered him.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the record, the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs wear blue and red.
Yes.
And they are first in Conference USA right now.
That's what Terry Bradshaw.
6-3.
I think Chris Anderson from Muskegon,
Well,
from the Muskegon area, was the last Michigan kid to go to Louisiana Tech.
La Tech wasn't that?
As well as Brandon Kearney's dad, Derek. I know he would be ticked off.
And that was the mailman, right?
Yeah, he played
Carl
with him.
Malone, and he played with a guy from this area, from Orchard Lake St. Mary's, Hiram Harris.
Now, who's the assistant coach that was getting all that stuff done?
Yeah. Hiram Harris has had a daughter, Jasmine Harris, who really good girls basketball player at North Farmington, ended up going to UMass, finishing out at Central Michigan.
You mean so kids were actually being seen and all that stuff on VHS?
Back in 1985.
You know, before the internet, before social media,
Yeah.
you know, these things actually happened.
VHS. That's all we had was
give a
VHS.
little blur and
That
little
little
line
line in the middle.
couple
Yeah, just
lines
the
and stuff
tracking.
like
You had
that.
to adjust the tracking.
I think that is a new filter on some of
It's
the
just
social
there's
media
so-
stuff where you
there's
can take
so-
a picture and it puts like a date and all that stuff. I'm like, this 20th century stuff now.
This is just such a great area
Yeah.
for basketball, and has the history speaks for itself.
Yes.
And you want to see these kids that are leaving be part of that history.
Yeah.
That you don't want to have to say Josh Jackson only played 2 years in Michigan and then finished off in California, or Miles Bridges only played 2. You want to be able to say, like we talk about Chris Webber, or we talk about Jalen Rose, or we talk about the greats that have come out of the state, and they have that 4-year resume.
Yep.
You don't want to have to talk about kids. Oh, they were here for a year. Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and Kuzma was another one of those, situations, maybe not playing against the greatest competition in Flint.
Pride of Burton Bendel.
Yeah, Burton Bendel. Yeah. But, hey,
now he's starting with the Lakers, playing with LeBron.
Yeah, that's not too shabby. But we've got some other guys who are playing in the league right now, getting great minutes, who, their best exposure that you're going to get in Michigan is by winning.
Yep.
And what do you want to play on TV? Get to the semifinals, get to the finals.
Yeah,
that's a great carrot to hang around.
We're not in Idaho. We're not in Idaho. We're not in Nebraska. We're in Detroit.
Right.
All of the coaches that you want to see you are coming to see you here.
Best team in the NBA is Golden State.
Golden State Warriors.
Could
Draymond
be.
Green.
Yeah, Draymond.
Day-Day.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. And they also
Need I say more?
Yeah, but there are a lot of guys out there that I think that kids can definitely benefit from staying here. And the other thing is just the camaraderie that you build with your buddies that you're growing up with.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as you turn
playing
go to
for your
school,
school, it's just like the hockey. The AAA players, when they play high school, they love it. There's fans come out, and it's just a great experience.
Scott still wears his varsity coat.
Exactly. All right. On that note, we're going to take a timeout. We've got Dan Young and Matt Mowery on the other side for our BCAM segment, and then these guys are going to be back so that we can talk about the weekend's best games. You're watching HangTime.
Coaching basketball is a rewarding and challenging pursuit, but you don't have to do it alone. The Basketball Coaches Association of Michigan are here to support you.
BCAM is the largest coaches association in the country with nearly 6,000 members representing college, high school, and middle school ranks. Members have access to drills, clinics, job opportunities, and it's the only way to vote for our annual awards, including Mr. and Miss Basketball.
Join today by visiting bcam.org, because better coaching always matters.
All right, welcome back to State Champs HangTime, the definitive high school hoops podcast in the state of Michigan. Had to put the glasses on because we're getting serious now. State Champs managing editor Matt Mowery is here. Dan Young, the assistant executive director at BCAM, is here as well. Dan, first, how you doing?
Doing great.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
For another round. It's basketball season.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah.
Love being here.
One of the things we promoted earlier in the podcast, and we're going to do it again now because we want you to show up, and that's the State Champs Winter Jam. Dan has been helping us get the teams organized all summer long. This is something that we've wanted to do for a long time. State Champs stepping into the showcase arena, and we've got a great slate of games getting ready to go on Saturday, December 22nd, right here at Lawrence Technological University. It's going to be a great environment. You got to come check it out. One of the games that we're going to feature is right off the bat, and that is a girls' classic matchup. And what's going to be really great about this one between Detroit Country Day and Detroit Edison, two reigning state champions in Class B and Class C. Now they are categorized as Division II. They're both in the same division now. So one of the reasons that they're taking part in our showcase, they were scheduled to play later in January, and Frank Orlando's like, I'm not playing anybody that close to the playoffs that I might face in the playoffs now that they are both in Division II. So we're going to get a chance to see them in late December, which is going to be a great measuring stick, I think, for both programs. And what we want to talk about today are some of the Miss Basketball hopefuls that are out there, just so you can kind of get on the radar who is going to succeed Jada Hampton for this year's Miss Basketball honors. And one of the teams, as we mentioned, is going to be playing is Detroit Edison. And Rakea Jackson, what can you say about her except that nationally she is on a lot of radars. She is going to the national champions to play her college ball. And Matt Mowery, this is someone who scores, rebounds, does
she can do everything. Yeah, she could play any one of the 5 positions on the floor that you needed her to. The only caveat I will give to her candidacy for Miss Basketball, not that she doesn't deserve it,
Absolutely.
and not that she isn't the best player in the state and arguably one of the top, handful in the nation, is that Southeast Michigan hasn't necessarily done well in the Miss Basketball voting, primarily because there tend to be more than one candidate in the area, and they kind of split the vote. No player from inside the city limits of Detroit has won the award since 1990. And only 2 from Southeast Michigan, even if you include Ann Arbor in that, have won it in the last 20 years, because what tends to happen is there are 3 or 4 candidates that split it up, and then whatever candidate outstate, kind of garners their entire area.
Let me stop you.
Get out and vote.
I was going to ask
That's
you.
what I was going to say.
Here's
The best player should win.
Right.
Yep.
And once you see all the players, get out and vote. For BCAM, any coach who's a BCAM member who is currently coaching, it gets a vote. And so at the end, when we get to the final list, and obviously this is a start of the season, when you get to the end and you have the actual list that the members will vote on, then they will have a highlight of each person, and they'll be able to go through that in a bio. But there's nothing like seeing these young ladies in person during the season and getting a feel. Obviously, if you're up north, you're in the UP, you won't be able to, but there's video, there's YouTube, there's highlights. because this group is incredible, and Rakia is at the top of the list.
And let me just say, and I'm going to help you here. Number one, it obviously helps, and we always talk about if you were at the Breslin or wherever the game is being played.
It's a good point.
The year before, then other schools and coaches have had an opportunity to see you, so they've seen Rakia, obviously the state champions, and also we'll be streaming live the game between Detroit Country Day and Detroit Edison.
Awesome.
And you'll be able to see it on the NFHS network. We'll get you all the links. Just go to statechampsnetwork.com or our social media on Saturday, December 22nd. We'll guide you right there. And you can watch them playing, obviously, a great team in Country Day who has some fantastic players of their own coming back and may have some Miss Basketball hopefuls when the season's at the end. So that's an opportunity for you to see them play, and then you can vote accordingly. So wherever you are, Escanaba, you can watch these games and get a chance to see her play. So let's talk about Julia Aralt from Grosse Pointe North.
And she's another girl who, like you said, if you get to the Breslin as it was before, or Calvin now, where they're holding the finals, like Julia carried her team. Yeah, absolutely. Grosse Pointe North got there basically riding their superstar player last year. A little bit of a scoring-wise, a little bit of a one-player show, but she was able to carry them all the way to the semis, where I believe they lost to Wayne Memorial last year. Wayne Memorial also had a Miss Basketball candidate last year, and we'll have another one in Janae Terry this year. So it's one of those where you get on that biggest stage, like you said, and people see you play. I don't know that many people had seen Julia before last year's semis, and then once Grosse Pointe North got in that environment and made it through quarters and then to semis, opened a lot of eyes. And she's 6'2", but can handle the ball, can shoot the ball, can drive to the hoop, can post up. She's another one who can do pretty much anything you need her to do. And for that team specifically, they need her to score and score in bunches, and she does that very well.
Yeah, Gary Bennett, obviously knows how to get it done. Yeah,
Yep.
Hall of Famer. Need you say more? Moira Joyner out of Saginaw Heritage. She is someone I got to see a little bit last year, especially when they were playing Country Day at Country Day. I went to that game, was filming that game. She is somebody who is obviously garnered a lot of attention. And is somebody who, really was the straw that stirred the drink for Heritage last year, and they were just dominant last year.
Yeah, at the state tournament they were so good and so balanced and well coached, and she's a legit player.
And she's somebody who's not necessarily. Sometimes you see players who get a lot of attention because they're flashy.
Right.
Mo's not flashy. Mo does the one thing that they require everybody on that team to do, which is play defense and play it well. And that's why they were able to lock down Jada Hampton and the rest of East Lansing in that championship game and win a title, is because they played outstanding defense. And it all starts right there with her. And she's somebody who's going to be, probably you'll see her best basketball once she gets, not that she's playing poorly now, but you'll see it once she gets to the next level, where she's going to play at Michigan State, and that's where she's going to be, and one of those incredible kids that you can throw on the other team's opposing, guard who
quickest
you
way
need
to
to
get in the
down.
lineup
Yep,
college
play
levels
defense
to be able to defend.
This is true. In fact, one of the things that was great to see is you talk about her defense. Kayla Webb from Country Day last year, she was as good as anybody when it came to being able to beat anyone off the dribble. It was the reason that they won by double digits was her defense on Kayla. So, and that was not easy to do. So I like Saginaw Heritage again. I think what they're doing over there, you said great coaching. Oh, yeah. I mean, fantastic. Eliza Winston out of Muskegon. Is it Eliza?
Yep.
I'm saying it right? Okay.
Pure point guard.
Pure point guard. What do we know about her?
She's quick as a hiccup. I mean, not as tall. Obviously, a lot of these other girls are 6'1", 6'2", 5'9", even 5'10". She's 5'4", 5'5", but she is quick and she's hard to stay in front of. I mean, obviously that's the thing with her. Distributes the ball very well, scores in bunches as well, just because, like I said, hard to stay in front of her. Can shoot. A lot of these girls, if you notice when we start going down this list,
she was at Mona Shores last year, right?
Right, yeah, she came halfway through, so this is her first full season.
And it'll be interesting to see, because a lot of these girls, when you look at where they're headed, a lot of them headed to the same place. A-Rod's going to Michigan State, Joyner's going to Michigan State, Winston's going to Michigan State. So Susie's got herself a pretty good recruiting class this year, as she often does.
Right on. Destiny Strother is another guard. Flint Carmen Ainsworth. She averaged 19 last season. 5 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals, 5'9", so she's a little on the bigger side for a guard, which is good. And Cavaliers had a school record 22 wins last year.
22 wins is their best ever.
That's huge.
Absolutely.
20 is the benchmark.
Yeah.
If you get 22, you're doing something.
Shoot,
doing
15,
well.
16, you're happy. But
right.
22 is legit.
And she can score. I mean, she can score in a bunch of different ways. She could drive it past you. She can shoot the lights out. It's going to be interesting because we mentioned that kind of regionality to the vote.
Yeah.
With her in the Saginaw Valley and Mo Joyner in the Saginaw Valley.
Right.
And potentially Midland Dow's Molly Davis, who went out for 31 against a very good Freeland team the other night. You could have 3 candidates right there in the same league, and that makes it very hard for one coach to, or one player to kind of come out ahead.
Let me say, too, in the voting, you get a choice of first, second, and third, and you have to vote for all 3.
That's good.
Which does end up helping with how the points are.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, for those who might be, confused or not understanding how the voting works for Mr. and Miss Basketball, maybe you could explain it quickly.
Right. So it's when you get the ballot as a BCAM member, you vote for first, second, and third. The first place vote would get 5 points. Second place would get 3. Third place would get 1. And then those tally up. We've had years where you could get the most first place votes and still not win, because overall you got a majority of 5s, 3s, and a ton of 3s mixed in. So we found it ends up, you hope it goes to the most deserving. That's what we're trying to do.
Yes, yeah.
But again, members vote.
Yep.
And members sign up, first of all, to be a member, and then make sure that you are educated in who the best people are.
Right, and it's like any election. You got to vote.
Got to vote.
You can't complain if you don't vote.
Well, when we found out that as a BBWA member voting for baseball awards, that a lot of times, we look at Justin Verlander missing out on because he was left off a couple of ballots, and if he'd gotten second place votes, same thing we're talking about here. That's those second and third place votes mean things too.
Well, yeah. When you when you think about, for instance, like swimming, we see it every year, and we saw it this year too. We have teams winning state championships, never won a race. Yep. Nobody won a race.
Is that right?
Yeah, and you have the collection of points and depths and how many swimmers you have there swimming that you can win a state title.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. It's really amazing. So as we get to one more, it's amazing what the Lansing area has been able to produce as far as talented women basketball players. And just looking at some of the notes that we had here, Sue Tucker won it back in '82. That she was the second winner of the award. She was an Okemos grad. Since then, Lansing Christian's Tiffany Shives in '04, Clarissa Bell, we all remember her from East Lansing in '09 in 2010, and of course last year Jada Hampton from East Lansing, and now we have I guess it's Leah Hartman out of Okemos, who is another one that's going to be right there in the mix to win it for that area again.
Yeah, she's one of those kids that they knew was coming forever, and she was offered a scholarship by Michigan State before she ever set foot on the floor as a freshman at Okemos. She ends up she committed to Northwestern, but slasher, she can score in a lot of different ways, and they have kind of an inside-outside game there at Okemos, so she can do a lot of the outside scoring and a lot of the shooting from the outside and slashing to the basket, but sometimes team success does play into it too, and their run was cut short a little bit last year because they ran into East Lansing on their way through the playoffs. So, like you said about getting that exposure late in the season where people see you play longer. If you only make it through districts or through the first round of regionals, and that's as far as your team goes, you get less time in front of voters' eyes, frankly. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I'm going to do Ira Childress a solid here And
Ira's
so,
great.
Ira, you owe me. And Matt, you're going to be there this weekend.
Yeah.
Saturday, December 8th at Okemos. There is a girls basketball showcase going on, so we have no problem with wanting to promote that. They've got several games all day. It starts out Kent City and Detroit King. Detroit King many times over. Winfield and his
Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly. State champions. Lansing Waverly and Forest Hills Northern are going at 12:45. 2:30 is Edison versus Holt. At 4:15 is Ann Arbor Pioneer and Hazlitt. At 6 is, well, they have two Edison squads. They have the black squad and the regular squad, so just something. Edison and Fowlerville, the real Edison, will take on at 6, and then at 7:45, Heartland and Okemos, which is great. A great day of girls basketball.
I'll do Billy Selvia a solid because that Fowlerville team has come from kind of out of nowhere in the last 2 or 3 seasons, ended up winning a district title when probably you looked at it early in the season, and Williamston was number 1 in that district, and you figured, oh, that's a slam dunk.
Right.
And then Williamston kind of got banged up as the season went on. That Fowlerville team is one to watch out for because they've got a 6'1" girl in Ellie Smith who can do a lot of different stuff on the court too. But yeah, Detroit Edison, they've got just fleets of players. You could argue, we talked about this the other day, you could argue if you go through every single class, senior, junior, that they may have one of the top 1 or 2 players in each class. They've got a freshman coming in who's going to be great. Freshman Mia Hageman last year who came in and was great. You know, Gabby Elliott before that, and then before that, Rakia.
Wow.
And it's just like, then it's one of those that's just going to keep perpetuating itself because Rakia graduates. Okay, well, we've got these other 3 and probably a new freshman coming in. So, yeah, it'll be fun to watch that program, as you said, taking on kind of the crown jewel of the girls basketball programs in the state over the last couple of decades in Country Day. Well, Edison's kind of angling toward, maybe we're next.
Yeah,
they've won a couple.
absolutely.
I don't know if they'll ever have anyone
No.
Rakia Jackson.
No,
though.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
Chris
No,
Weber.
I know.
And, or a comparison of Shane Battier.
Yeah, we
Chris
don't
Weber.
see it at
really,
that level here. We see good.
No, she
again,
is-
Kayla Webb's
get out
at Providence. good.
Oh yeah,
Really
Destiny
good.
Pitts goes to Minnesota, is having a great career. She didn't win it, but I mean she was in the top. But this
Erica
this
Davenport
young
and
lady
Clarkston,
is truly special,
And that's
we're
why you
very
need-
lucky to have her in our state. And go see her play. You will
Come
be
December 22nd.
December
to
22nd.
the Winter Jam, the state champs Winter Jam. You'll have a blast.
Yeah, she's
We
the
got
real
a
deal.
We got a DJ that's set up. It's gonna keep it hype
records,
all
nice.
day.
Spinning out.
Absolutely. Right?
And the other thing
gonna
is,
be great.
see her play because she may, if you're just looking at the box scores, considering the fact that they are so deep, she may not go for 40 points every night like some other players who are the sole focus of their team's offense. She may go for 12, she may go for 9, whatever they need on that particular night. And if they're blowing teams out, sometimes that happens too.
But
But
this is a great
if you
matchup,
see
so
her
she's
play,
gonna
you
play
go,
to the
oh
end.
gosh, yeah.
Sure, that will be
right.
Because that's when Monique, the coach, Monique Brown, is going to say, these are the games we need to see what you can do, and then we can
Country
rest.
Day's got players, so it's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we go, another big shout out to another one of our podcast sponsors, Hungry Howie's. We love Hungry Howie's. We love Dough Raiser, best fundraising tool out there. You sell paper pizza certificates. They get great pizza. You get the dough. Check it out at doughraiser.com. Dan, before we let you go, what would you like to say to the BCAM membership or those hoping to join? Any news right now?
Absolutely. If you're a coach at any level, please sign up for BCAM. Go to bcam.org. You can sign up as a school membership, so your entire high school can have their entire staff for 15 members for $80, or you can sign up as an individual, assistant, freshman coach, JV coach, head varsity coach. It does not matter. You'll get a monthly email, newsletter from our association. You'll be in on all the voting for Coaches of the Year, Players of the Year, Mr. and Miss Basketball, academic awards, you name it. We're the #1 association as far as numbers for at least 7 years, and
in the country.
In the country.
Can't say that.
And a lot of it has to do with Amy Heidenberg, our assistant, our board of directors, but all our coaches that work really hard to run great clinics, develop coaches, keep coaches in it, stay off the officials, just coach your team. So we're if you're a member, you're going to get a lot out of it.
Absolutely, and we love BCAM. We love the partnership we have been able to strike over the last several years. We got a lot of good things that we're doing now, and we're going to continue to do, and there's going to be stuff that's going to blow you away we haven't even thought about doing yet.
We got a lot of fun things down the road.
Exactly. Always talking, always trying to work, and always trying to make, again, Michigan basketball the center of it.
And I like to plug State Champs. You guys are the best. You are committed to kids, putting kids on the stage, giving them their first chance, giving them an opportunity to showcase and be on TV. I know I look forward every weekend to watching all the highlights from all the sports, and you learn so much about other sports that you don't get a chance to see just from your show. You guys are the best.
Right. Just turn your heads for a second to check. Okay, gentlemen, really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. Let's do it again next week. What do you say?
Enjoyed it. It was fun.
All right, sounds good. Coming up after the break, we will have TJ and Scott back, and we're going to talk about the best games to go to this weekend on the boys' side. So stick around.
Welcome to Be the Referee with veteran MHSAA official Sam Davis.
There's one very visible change coming to the basketball courts this year in Michigan. The sideline coaching box has been expanded from 14 feet to 28 feet. The expansion was allowed by national playing rules for individual state association adoption a year ago, but the change was announced too late for Michigan to opt for the larger box. Even though the box size has changed, other rules for behavior inside the box have not. Only the head coach is allowed to stand up in the box as allowable by rule. Once the coaching box is lost due to a technical foul, there is no way to get the coaching box back, and all other related rule restrictions apply. The change brings the game in Michigan full circle from when the old seatbelt rule was created in the 1980s. Hopefully, common sense will prevail, and the coaching box will be used for just that, coaching.
Thanks, Sam. You can be a referee. Go online now to MHSAA.com to register. Be the Referee is a production of the MHSAA Network.
All right, everybody, welcome back into the studio. I want to thank Dan and Matt. And now we've got Scott and TJ back here. We just want to give you a little preview for games of the weekend and into next week, some stuff that you can look forward to besides December 22nd here at the Don Riddler Fieldhouse at Lawrence Tech, where we will have the State Champs Winter Jam, the first ever State Champs Showcase. We've got 4 games, Detroit Country Day and Detroit Edison on the girls' side. We've got Westland John Glenn taking on Mount Clemens at 3. At 5, it's Cass Tech versus Ypsilanti, and at 7, it's Canton versus Grand Rapids Catholic Central. $10 all day. Be here. That's all I got to say. We're going to keep hyping it too, and it's going to be sweet. So you got to make sure you're here.
Hopefully, we'll be the first of many. We'll be doing this.
Absolutely, it's going to be fantastic. But let's talk about what's going on this weekend. And again, by the time this thing airs, we should be getting into Friday, and of course, the winter breakout that's going on this weekend. You're one of the hosts of that.
Yes,
so,
up in Grand Rapids.
In Grand Rapids, talk about that.
A phenomenal event.
Dansville and Matawan, I see that's going on.
And I think when putting together matchups, for example, the Winter Jam, the Motor City Roundball Classic, I always try to find, wow, it'd be great to see this big go against this big.
Yes.
You know, and so I'm talking with Matawan's coach and talking with the coach at Dansville, hey, you guys don't play against any other bigs, might as well have, Nolan, 6'10", Nolan Foster play against 6'10",
Caleb
Hodgson, And it's one of those things where West Ottawa, we've got them who were runner-ups in Class A last year.
Right.
They get to play against the Class B runner-ups in Grand Rapids Catholic Central.
Yep.
It's at Grand Rapids downtown gym.
Yep.
We got the Benton Harbor, the state champions, Class B state champions.
Against Loyola.
When putting everything together, I was like, wow, it would be great to have Myron Gardner versus Scooby Johnson, obviously.
Myron left for Spire.
Yeah. And I still think that Loyola is going to be a pretty strong team. I have them as a top 10 team.
We planned on having Old Redford and Rocket Watts in the Winter Jam.
And Isaiah Jackson.
Against Grand Rapids Catholic Central, but it didn't happen.
I mean, it is what it is. But that whole day is set up nice, and then
I like what's at Oak Park on Saturday. They brought it. I think it's called the
Holiday Shootout.
Yeah. Bringing in some teams from out of state.
Flint Beecher's coming over there. You got a team from Chicago. There's also
Toledo Rogers.
Yep. There's also a team. Ann Arbor has an event at Ann Arbor Huron, which isn't listed here, where Skyline, Huron and Pioneers girls are playing. And then I think the 3, 5, and 7 o'clock games, you'll find Skyline's boys, Huron's boys, and Pioneers boys that are also playing.
I'm going to be at St. Mary's Clarkson on Friday at Clarkson. Clarkson's home opener. I think they're raising the banner.
Okay. The other thing on Friday you talked about was if you want to get a chance to see Imani Bates, Ypsilanti Lincoln at Saline on Friday.
Yep.
And so that should be an absolute great matchup. There and
over Brother Rice Huron.
Yeah.
Brother Rice has welcomed in Ricky Palmer as their new head coach.
It's a new era at Brother Rice. Yes.
Ricky was part of that Country Day dynasty.
Yes.
He played for Coach Keener, became Coach Keener's protege on the bench, was very integral on those last 2 state championships that Kurt won in Michigan before going off to Arizona. He won 9 state titles in the state of Michigan, and Ricky Palmer, those last couple state title teams, Kurt was handing the huddle over to Ricky to do the X and O's. So Ricky took 5 years off. Back in the game right now, he's got those Brother Rice Warriors playing with a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm, kind of injecting a sense of pride back in that program. And I think they could be a real sleeper in the Catholic League Central, which will be really strong this year. Yep. And they're going to get two difference makers at the break in. Maynard, Zach Maynard comes over from Rochester Adams, and then Miko Stewart comes over from Country Day. They're 1-1. They lost at the buzzer in their first game against Warren Mott, and then beat Walled Lake Central on Saturday for Rick Palmer's first victory.
And John Brantley, their junior guard, is really good, being looked at right now by Ivy League schools. 4.2 grade point average or whatever he has. Something.
We just got to build a new gym.
Yeah, right.
I'll stand on that. You're playing in a kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. I would say if you're in the Flint area, another game that's going to be great, and another team that's going to be great. If you want a chance to check them out on Tuesday, December 11th, you've got Flint Carmen Ainsworth 4th in the state in Division I. They're going to Davison.
Yeah, Davison. Just saw Robbie Hatton twice in a week. And I was like, "Wow, man! Hey, buddy, what's going on?" Davison that's a tough place to play. Yeah. Probably the opposite gym of Brother Rice is huge.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those rivalries where, Carmen Ainsworth is really going to find out how real they are,
right?
Especially as they look deeper into the schedule. I know they got Beecher later on.
Yeah.
The Flesher brothers, and then Jaden Nunn.
And Jaden Nunn, the sophomore, who is really, really good.
Yeah,
we got a great freshman class and a great sophomore class.
Yep.
So the future is really bright for basketball around here, and let's just hope we keep all these kids in state and we don't have more of the same and them busting out for prep school.
Yeah, December 14th, I'm going to go to the Jackson Ypsilanti game because I want to see Ypsilanti play before they get into the Winter Jam, and then we're also going to have on that Friday one more that I think would be something that people check out, Wayne Memorial, see what they're all about, and see if Clarkston can rebound because that game at Clarkston.
Yeah, that's at Clarkston, and that's the game that Clarkston's going to be honoring Dan Fife.
Oh,
I believe, I don't want to
let the cat out of the bag.
Let the cat out of the bag, but I believe they might be naming the court after Dan Fife.
Oh, okay, makes sense.
And
make sure they put that. Make sure they don't add an E after Dan.
Right.
Yes.
And I talked to Dan too, and Dan said, this might be the only game I see all year, that it's too hard for him to be back there, and he loves it so much. He loved being on the bench so much. He doesn't want to be behind Tim as some type of shadow where people can be coming up to him and be talking about stuff that they should be talking to Tim about. So it will be weird to be walking in that gym on a regular basis and not see Dan Fife. But
should have Dan Fife bobblehead.
He's going to be out visiting his grandkids and enjoying retirement. But I know it was bittersweet to step away. So it will be really nice that the whole community can come together, have a game against a really good team in Wayne Memorial. They've been scheduling Wayne Memorial a lot the last handful of years, always having kind of a good non-conference matchup there, and then all kind of come together and honor what Dan Fife's legacy was, which was just class, character, and championships.
Yep, I'll be this Friday. I'm going to Troy Athens. I want to see Mount Clemens play, and they're at Troy Athens, so that'll be interesting. And I'll see John Glenn take on Wayne on the 20th. So
they got
a couple
Joe
days
Moon.
before.
They got Joe Moon.
That's a great rivalry.
Great rivalry. Yeah.
Great name too, Joe Moon.
Joe Moon the fourth.
Exactly, and his senior. And so that's going to be one of the interesting matchups. We see Mount Clemens and John Glenn at the Winter Jam is a senior. doing his thing, and then you've got a freshman phenom that's coming up. So it's going to be kind of pay your dues, young man. We'll see.
Right.
We'll see. It's going to be great.
That's what it's all about.
Lots of great games coming up, and we'll talk about them all season long. The HangTime podcast pretty much going to premiere. We're trying to get these out every Thursday, so you got a day to kind of absorb where they go, even though this one's coming out on Friday. So, but again, gentlemen, thank you. Thanks for being here.
I love it, man.
We're gonna do this each and every week.
I'm going cage crazy.
Absolutely.
Got cage fever.
If you've got, exactly. If you've got anything you want to say, you surely connect with us on social media. And
the best thing about basketball compared to football, I mean, obviously you love football, but you gotta wait. You gotta wait a week. You have your weekend, then you got basketball. You're at a
all
game
week.
Tuesday. You can be at a game Thursday, control. Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, climate control. Yes, that is the biggest part about it. Yes, it's always nice inside. Yep, no doubt about it. So we're excited. Hoop season is going, and we'll be talking about it all season long right here on HangTime. We will see you next week.
See you next week.